What's up, guys? Sam MMA Fan Bronx on Twitter. Coming at you with some instant reaction to UFC 256, Figueiredo versus Moreno. Um, I thought it was the best card of the year. Apologies for uh, not being more lively. It is 2 in the morning here on the East Coast. I do have a wife sleeping in our bedroom and 4 children, all soundly asleep at this point. So I want to keep it that way. But I thought that was the best UFC event of the year, if I'm to be honest. And obviously, I don't remember chronologically every single event. I remember, Joanna versus Wei Lee as far as fight of the year. I thought that Figueiredo versus Moreno was giving that fight a run for its money. And had the fifth round been as action packed as rounds 1 through 4, it would have it would have overtaken Joanna versus Wei Lee. But as we close out the year, I just don't think you can look at anything and say anything is better than what those two ladies put out. I think that was back in March. But UFC 256, it goes down in the books with Figueiredo and Moreno via majority draw. I was looking on Twitter, and one of my Twitter friends that I follow, I fucks with MMA. That's fucks with X. Um, he uh, he shared the judges' scorecards, and one of them, it's a familiar name as far as like judges, but it's a tough one. I think something like Junichiro. I don't remember, but they gave the fifth round to Moreno, and for that reason, it went down as a majority draw instead of it being a majority decision for Figueiredo. Couple things, fight was amazing. Each round, the story pretty much was Figueiredo's power shots versus Moreno's shots. I mean, I can't really say it was Figueiredo. Uh, as the fight was nearing an end, they called out that unofficial tallies had um, Moreno up 108. And I'm saying Moreno. Figueiredo up 108 to 104 on strikes. So they were throwing and landing, or I should say, Moreno's probably more inaccurate. Figueiredo picked his spots a little bit more, but he ended up probably close or narrowly outlanding Moreno. The reason the fight was scored a majority draw is because in the third round, if I'm not mistaken, Figueiredo tries to kick Moreno in the gut, and he nails him right in the package. And it was significant. I thought the fight was going to be over. Moreno was on the floor. He was like, it seemed like he was trying to throw up, or like he was just doing stuff to me that signaled like, man, how can you restart this fight? I thought that he would just be physically unable to continue. I, I don't remember. I know I've seen fights in the past where guys get kicked low, and there was one fight where a guy was so badly injured, like he was saying he felt like his balls was going like up into his body. I mean, that's what it seemed like to me, the way Moreno was, and then it was like it didn't even feel like he took the whole 5 minutes at the end of the day. It felt like he probably came close, but it just didn't seem like that. I'm saying to myself, man, this fight is gonna be over. Like maybe they'll do some shenanigans where they'll start the clock late or something will happen, so that they give him more time in order to try to exhaust every option. But it seemed like I'm tweeting out fight over. And then next thing I know, I look up and they're fighting again. I'm like, wait, what? Like, how did this happen? Like, would they bring in a substitute? A Moreno double? What's going on here? But he got the Figueiredo lost the point. And the same homie I fucks with MMA is mad that he deducted a point, and and I was like, Essentially, my argument is that it seems to me like when fouls occur, the practice in MMA has always been referees' discretion. And he was saying that, there's never been a rule. You have to read the rule. And I don't know the letter of the law. I haven't looked at that rule. All I know is that I've been watching the UFC since, the UFC was in the 60s. That's what I'm talking about, like actually live watching fights. I was watching back when it was 60 something. I remember seeing Liddell and Hughes as champions and things like that, like, live watching some defenses. Hughes versus what's this guy's name? Trigg. So I go back a ways, 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. And whenever you see fouls, from what I've seen, it always be like sometimes you see a guy kick a guy in the package. Keep him up. I understand that was low. That you were trying to go for the inside of the leg, or you were going for the gut. He was moving, whatever the case may be, and you'll see a lot of warnings. A lot of times you see guys holding the fence, and they keep on saying, "Hey, stop grabbing the fence." You can hear a referee in a fight tell the same fighter, "Don't grab the fence. Watch out for the eyes." They still poke them in the eyes, then they'll warn them after they poke the person in the eye. They'll kick a guy in the package. Okay, keep them up. A lot of times it's frustrating because it's like, what do you got to do before you actually are going to lose a point here? When the NBA, a lot of times fans scream about, the fact that things weren't intentional. In the NBA, when LeBron James is driving, like, sometimes he's a freight train. You can't get out of the way. Guys foul him accidentally. They can't say, "Hey, I didn't intend to foul him," and he still scored the bucket. So let's just let it be. No, he goes to the line. He gets to shoot the free throw. So the idea that intention should matter, I don't really think that it should. And I thought that it was a just point deduction from Figueredo. I mean, I say that, and at the same time, I'm thankful that the fight was able to continue and it didn't end, and Moreno ended up winning that way because he got fouled and could not continue. I don't know what would have happened in that situation, but that's that. Some other things that happened. Great fight in the co-main event. Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira. Been very high on Charles Oliveira. I thought he was going to win this fight. I've been picking him. I was an early Charles Oliveira fan. I remember seeing him his first time out just roll somebody up when he was like 21 years old, like a decade ago. And just thinking like the way this guy just wrapped this guy up and submitted him, I was like, this guy's going to be a champion one day. And I was the biggest fan. And, I called him like most people called John Jones. Like you could see early after some of those early fights, maybe the Guzman or the Stephan Bonner, Brandon Vera, very early. I mean, it was easy to see with Jones, but I thought the same way with Charles Oliveira. And then, then I kind of backtrack. I'm not going to pretend as if I stood by that prediction while he was going through rough times. He, early in his career, due to some defensive holes in his game that actually Jack Slack did a great job of breaking down, he would get taken out in fights. And after a while, I was just like, man, I don't know what it is. He just doesn't have the heart. That was my what I thought concerning him, and I kind of had for a time given up. But then after his last loss, I believe it was the Paul Felder by TKO, he's just been like, just putting it all together. Like I believe and I say this all the time, and I argue it over and over again. He's the most talented fighter I've ever seen in mixed martial arts. To me, there's nothing he doesn't do very well. Puts his punches and kicks together. Standing, he's no slouch. His takedowns have progressed. His defense has progressed. His jiu-jitsu has always been on point. He's the leader by a good distance in submissions. And he beats Ferguson tonight, 30-26 on all three judges' scorecards. You know how amazing that is to get all three judges to agree that at least one round was 10-8. I mean, that, getting a 10-8 in MMA is a rarity. And to have all three guys give them a 10-8 is pretty darn impressive. I mean, some people you could argue that you know under those new rules where they're supposed to give out 10-8s more liberally, he should have got a 10-8 for every single round. I know people are going to think that's crazy, but remember what happened in the fight. He was winning the stand-up exchanges, and then he took Ferguson down strongly and controlled all of the action. Ferguson, he was Oliveira was really never in any danger other than when Ferguson nailed him with a almost legal, but it ended up being illegal up kick. That's about it. He did get a nice slice and elbow on Oliveira in the second round when Charles was in the process of taking him down. But other than that, that was it. So I'm high on him. I mean, Ferguson, we know before the Gaethje fight was on like an 11 or 12 fight winning streak, and he was all this time was supposed to be matched up with Khabib. Those talks are out the window. It's sad that fight never materialized, but I don't see how the Ferguson stance can any longer make the claims that Ferguson would have been the one to beat Khabib or match Khabib. We just saw him get grounded and controlled and lose the grappling exchanges. And that was always the idea with the Ferguson versus Khabib is that, who knows what happens on the feet, probably. And many people believe Ferguson might have been the superior striker. I think that's reasonable to concede. But that what happens when Khabib takes Ferguson down, just how dangerous and offensive he is off of his back. Well, tonight, those things came to an end, and Oliveira might have a slightly different style, but he likes it. He likes to get guys down and control them, and fish for submissions, somewhat similarly to Khabib, but he's more BJJ first, whereas Khabib is probably more control and like almost like a folk style type wrestling control first. Or I guess it might maybe Sambo, I don't know. But yeah, Oliveira is amazing. I've always thought he was amazing, and now he's actually proven what I thought for a long time. And I think that next he should get the winner of Poirier and McGregor for a vacant title, sort of. To tell you the truth, considering that Khabib retired, I hope he's retired and that he stays retired. Just because he said he's retired. I don't like the fact that Dana White, when guys are going through a rough patch in their career, and they mention the possibility of stepping away, that Dana White is always trying to kick these guys out the back door. But then you have a guy who's 29-0 and holds one of your belts, and then he says he wants to retire, and now you're going to start saying stuff about, oh, well, his father wanted him, his deceased father, long ago said that he should retire after getting to 30-0 and all this other. No, you always said whenever a guy mentions retirement, that should be it for him. Now Khabib does it, and all of a sudden, because you still have more money to make, you got the deal over in Abu Dhabi. You would love to get him back one, maybe even two, three more times, because it's never enough, right? You say, oh, he's at 30-0, but then maybe something else more appealing comes along. Oh, why don't you go for 31-0? Keep on pushing this thing out. I like that. He steps away. He's undefeated, and I believe that there should have been like an 8-man tournament announced. The UFC will never do it for reasons that are just unclear to me. I don't understand why they don't just lay out who are the players. And I would have made a 8-man tournament with the top 8 lightweights not named Khabib Nurmagomedov. And once the dust settled, whoever emerged from that 8-man tournament would have been the champion. But the UFC is not going to do that once they are pretty well settled on the fact that Khabib is not coming back in September or October of next year, and that he truly is sticking to his retirement. They'll throw the winner of a few bout permeations of bouts together for the vacant belt. And I think that we as fans, I think it would be so big for them if they set this up in our minds. If um, Ferguson and Oliveira was the first of 4 fights that are going to happen, and then after those 4 fights, it's 2 fights, and then it's the 1 fight for the championship. I think that would have been fantastic. But Dana White mentioned, I think it was to Brett Okamoto, the fact that the winner of that fight, Oliveira versus Ferguson, might have championship implications. And I think this is just what promoters do to shine a extra light on their event, right? So that those top 2 fights have there's a title typically for the main event, and then the second fight is title implications, and that's what I think he's doing there. But I just believe that why not tell us that, hey, these guys are 2 of 8, after they emerge, they're going to have to win 2 more fights, and these are the other 6 competitors, and this is when they're matching up, and maybe, hey, we don't even know what permeations after the 4 bouts are completed. We don't know what permeation we're going to use to get the other 4 guys matched up, but just know. And I would have made the other 6 competitors, obviously McGregor and Poirier. You got to get Gaethje in there. You got to get Mike Chandler in there because you just signed him over from Bellator, and he was a top contender in Bellator. And then you have some flexibility with the other guys. You could go with a Hooker. You could go with Felder, guys like that to fill out 7 and 8, kind of a wash shot. If you were talking about, those who on those last 2 spots doesn't matter. I just wish they would do something like that. The UFC would do something like that. I personally would probably stick a Carlos Diego Ferreira ahead of either Hooker or and I'm saying Felder, but that's old now because RDA is back and RDA just beat Felder. So take Felder out of that, what I just said, and put RDA in. I would definitely stick RDA in this 8-man now that he's taken Felder's spot, and obviously he's more deserving than Hooker because he more decisively beat Felder. That's the guy in common that they both have. And I don't think anybody argues that, other than Chris Lee, that would argue that Felder did better than RDA. So those are my thoughts on that. It should have been an 8-man tournament, but what's probably going to happen is if Poirier beats McGregor by some stroke of miraculous stroke, they would do Poirier versus Charles. I don't care what permeation you put together. I'm always going to pick Charles. Although I would be afraid if he fought McGregor. I'm not going to lie. I think that fight would need to hit the ground immediately, very fast, because Conor is just like a crazy man. I mean, and his strikes are just very effective. And if you fight him with a crowd, especially, his aura and just the crowd and the weight of the situation, along with just, what he actually brings to the table on the feet, can really just overwhelm fighters. I mean, I feel like certain guys are just lesser versions of themselves. Cerrone, Jose Aldo, Diego Brandao, who's we know is not on this level, but still, I just feel like that a lot of times guys are lesser versions of themselves. when they're going in there and there's the big event versus Conor McGregor. Like to win this fight will change your life. It's a yeoman's task to best him. That's why like Nate Diaz went from what we the fans knew that he was a big star to everybody knowing like, whoa, look at this guy. We need to follow him. We need to give him his respect. When you can overcome all of that and best McGregor, but that's what's likely to happen. The winner of McGregor, Poirier, or this is what the UFC would want to happen against Oliveira, and then they also like to play money games where it's potential that they would, if they couldn't come to agreements, maybe they'd stick somebody else in there um, for a vacant belt. But those are things that are going to happen. That probably wouldn't happen until like fight, international fight week range. Fight international fight week range, just because I'm sure they would just try to exhaust and wait and pray and continue to talk to Khabib, and then once it was clear he wasn't going to return in time for like September, October over in Abu Dhabi, they would just say, okay, fine, we're going to announce this, stick it on at that point. And there are other challenges. Obviously, if McGregor wins, it's been widely reported that there's going to be a Pacquiao fight between Pacquiao and McGregor. And if that happens, you can forget about it. They're just going to have to go in some other way because McGregor is going to get brutally KO'd by Manny Pacquiao, and we won't see him until 2022 in MMA at the very earliest. Yeah, so those are some of my thoughts. I'm going to quickly rifle through some of the other results, some stuff that stood out. I did not catch the first two fights, I want to say. I think it was just two I missed. I missed Ben Askren Jr. He won, I saw. And then I missed Tisha Torres. She won. And my apologies to their opponents. I don't even know their names. I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to just check those fights out after I finish talking on the stream. Mackenzie Dern versus, I believe her name is pronounced Vina. Oh man, I had it before. Zhen G. Word. I don't believe John Anik would tell me I nailed it, but they did a great job tonight. The UFC pronouncing those people's names. I believe her name is. To look at the way it's spelled, that's not how you pronounce a lot of these foreign fighters' names. So I believe the pronunciation they were using was Vina Zhen G. Droga. But if you could spell that based on what I said, I just don't know how you would do that. That was two world champion grapplers going head to head, and typically those fights are what they are, because they're such dominant grapplers, they kind of cancel one another out, and they end up giving you a slobber knocker. One can't take the other down and impose that game, and so they just resort to slanging, and slang they did. That was a fantastic fight. Dern, for the most part, was the superior striker. She did get busted up when Genji Drober tried to throw a body kick. She caught Dern dipping, and she hit her with her knee and busted up her nose. Might have been a broken nose in the second round. I think all the judges gave Yandy Drober the second round, but gave Dern rounds 1 and 2. And that was that. It was some fun. A few times where, one time where it seemed like Dern showed she was a little more dangerous on the floor. If I hit the floor, I think at the end of the first round, and it seemed like if Dern had a little more time, she might have been able to play with the heel hook or something to that extent. But then at I want to say the end of the fight itself, Dern had to kind of like keep all her weight on Yanji Drober because she was fishing for a arm bar, and obviously they're just expert at defense, and They never really got far with that, you know. So, but that was that. Dern won either two or both or all three scorecards. Kevin Holland, KOs, TKOs, Jacare Souza, Ronaldo Jacare Souza. Uh, you know, I haven't really been a fan. I mean, I respect him, and I think he's a big deal. I mean, and he's gonna have a lot of people on him. And I almost hate to agree with Dana White. Like, you know, I guess Dana White dubbed him Big Mouth back when he was on like the Contender Series, because the guy I mean, he cannot stop talking. I mean, he's one of those that, like, just annoying dudes, and like sometimes, you know, it's like you almost hate the fact that somebody like that is so good, somebody with that personality. But man, you got to give it up. At the end of the day, I got to give it up. This guy, there was a point in this 1 round fight where Jacare is on top of him, and it's like, you know, this is a world champion grappler on top of him, and he's actually holding his own. He's doing pretty good for a minute, and then Jacare kind of commands the top position and actually lands some solid shots on him. And this guy is just like, oh man, that was actually a good one, you know. And like literally, like moments later, he create some space on the bottom. He kind of like uses his legs to push Jacare off just enough to be able to nail Jacare. I want to believe with what was like a right hand from the bottom. And he created enough force that he kind of stuns Jacare and kind of gets him almost off of him in almost like a 50-50 position. And then he's able to just jump up over top of a guy who was just on him and just nail him with a whole bunch of punches while Jacare's legs kind of buckle behind him, and he's just in a terrible position. He's stunned, and the referee stops it appropriately because it almost looked like it was a murder. I mean, it was so brutal to watch. I mean, and it's one of those things where it's like, man, when have you seen something like that? And actually, this guy, I gotta respect that he is a student and a fan of the game. He was able to quickly mention, oh my God, Nico Price as a guy. He said, you know, he thought about the time Nico Price TKO Randy Rude Boy Brown from the bottom position. And he didn't exactly do that. He actually got to his feet, but it was very like reminiscent of that, where it's like, you know, typically if you're on the bottom, you're losing and you're not able to really effectively throw punches that will hurt your opponent. But man, hurt him, did he ever? So that goes in the books as a KO for him over Jacare, a legend of the sport, former Strikeforce champion, a guy who holds big victories over, you know, the likes of guys like Chris Weidman and stuff. So it's just like, what a big, huge win for this guy. And, you know, he has already had static with Israel Adesanya, and people might say, hey, you jumping the gun. I mean, you know, this is fighting. You know, these guys have lost fights coming up in amateurs and this and that. I always like to forecast forward. I mean, to me, there's no more exciting guy in the division of it in Israel than this Kevin Holland. He went 5-0 this year, so big ups to him, man. Amazing. The last two fights that I mentioned, fights that I saw, was Cyril Gane TKO. Was that the first or the second? It was so long ago, I don't even remember. First, second, third, it was a TKO finish over JDS. JDS complained at the end that, hey, you know, I was out, yeah, but it was because you hit me in the back of the head. It's like, was it in the back of the head? Then maybe, yeah. I mean, if you consider behind the ear, anything that lands behind the ear or after the ear, back of the head, yeah, it was a lot of the strike landed behind the ear. But the way it was is that Junior he got stung with I want to say a strong jab and then an elbow, and he was kind of like ducking away. So it's not that Gane was trying to hit him in the back of the head, but Junior was turning his head as he's throwing strikes. And I don't understand, you know, I understand, like, you know, if a guy's like face down, not punching him in the back of the head, if for some crazy reason somehow you get behind them, not hitting them like directly, when they talk about the back of the head and the area that's not permitted, if you had a mohawk, you would not hit along the line of a mohawk. And certainly Gon didn't do that. He did, but he did come kind of close, or possibly, and he even acknowledged so. Um, oh Lord, I'm gonna have to end this stream early. I just hear my 1-year-old crying, and she is the worst sleeper of the 4 kids. But so Gon wins. Cub Swanson's back after a long layoff due to an ACL injury that he sustained, and man, he was back in a big way. KOs Pineda. It was an amazing finish. Congrats to him. I believe the guys who should have walked away with 50K was Figueiredo and Moreno, Holland, and Cub Swanson. And if this was the pre-UFC era, I don't see how they wouldn't give Oliveira 50K also, because just considering who he beat and how he beat him, you would give him that. Those are my thoughts. Thank you guys. Anyone who's gonna watch this, appreciate the thumbs up and any constructive criticism. Much love. Again, follow me on Twitter, Sam MMA Fan Bronx, and let me know if you've seen the video. And feedback is much appreciated.